Alex. It follows people's movements, yes?
And then when everybody stands still, it doesn't understand what's happening, so it keeps on hunting until everything's moving.
Your signs of movement.
I know.
Sounds
Boy,
of life.
technology, sometimes it's just way too good.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
We're all here.
We're ready.
Oh, there. Good morning, everybody. Sorry I couldn't be there. Tried to do this talk of, I tried to do this talk at Zenchuji, but all because of the Obon Carnival, all of Zenchuji is in chaos. So I'm actually still at home and will drive over as soon as I get done with this and, you know, join the chaos. So Obon Carnival's, celebration of uh, ancestors and a time in Japan where they actually, it's a big deal in Japan because families will uh, pack up, go to their ancestral birthplaces, clean the graves of their buried ancestors, and it's a whole vacation kind of for them. And usually in Japan, it takes place in August. And we do it, Zenchuji does it in July so that the monks can travel back to Japan in August. And in the United States, we have kind of co-opted Obon and we do our Obon around Halloween, which is closer to the kind of the Judeo-Christian Islamic, version of the time and the year when we remember the dead. So here we are. So today's koan um, has a very simple and very complicated answer, but we'll go through it. And it's in both the Book of Equanimity and in the Blue Cliff Record. The Some of the texts are a little bit different, but the main case is exactly the same. So this is the preface case and the accusatory verse from the Book of Equanimity, Baso's illness. Preface to the assembly. Though you investigate apart from mind and consciousness, there's still this. Though your body leaves the road of common and holy, you are still in danger. The iron barb is jerked out from the red-hot forge. Though your tongue is like a sword and your lips are like spears, it is still difficult to open your mouth. Without damaging the spear point, please try to present it and see. Main case. Attention. The great master Baso was ill. The temple priest asked, Osho, how is your health these days? Baso replied, sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha. Appreciatory verse. Sun-face, moon-face, stars fall, thunder crashes. With regard to shape, a mirror is selfless. Ball on the tray rolls by itself. Don't you see? Before hammer and anvil, gold of 100 temperings. Beneath scissors and ruler, a bolt of silk. So in the simplest terms, there's an old Pali text that talks about the sun-faced Buddha and the moon-faced Buddha. Sun-faced Buddha was a Buddha that allegedly lived for 1,800 years, and the moon-faced Buddha was a Buddha that um, only lived for one day and one night, so 24 hours. So there seems to be this reference. This is Master Baso is on his deathbed, so he knows that he's dying. He knows that he's quite ill, um, and he's basically saying, "Well, there's a part of me that is short-lived, and a part of me that is long-lived." Um, which is true. Where do we find this within ourselves? I mean, we all know that we are all made of matter and matter and energy is neither created nor destroyed, but has what it is that we are made up of has existed since the beginning of time, and will continue to exist till the end of time. Whenever what those 2 points are. Um, and there's this very temporary, skin bag that we live in that lives for a few years. Um, in cosmic time, it's a and no time at all. So that's probably the most direct reference. But there are so many other permutations that go into that long and short, and which affect us every single day. What being ill, and this kind of hit me a little. This kind of hit me a little personally because I just a friend of mine, we were coworkers at Kaiser. She decided to take matters into her own hands, and she committed suicide on July 4th. She and the poem I wrote about her starts out with she declared independence of life on July 4th, but she did so out of a diagnosis of she had pancreatic cancer and had gone through the available treatments. Knew that she was going to, uh, she decided to go into hospice, but the this pancreatic cancer, if you don't know, is probably one of the most painful deaths that you can experience, and it's also the the it's the most misdiagnosed of all the cancers, because by the time you start to have symptoms, it's too late. The only people who generally survive pancreatic cancer are those for whom it was caught early and usually accidentally, because they're usually looking for something else and they find the cancer in its early stages. So she had so she decided that she decided how she would die, and she committed suicide on 4th. Her funeral was this past Wednesday. She was quite, this was not a suicidal person. She was quite lively. She was, some 15, 20 years older than I am. And, she partied with the hippies in the 60s and traveled the world, and and every possible protest she could get involved in, she was involved in. She was quite the live wire. I mean, when she was alive, she was very much alive, and enjoyed life to its fullest extent. So she did not leave out of any sort of depression, but she just took her life into her own hands. So in her 70 plus years of life, for us, that's a fairly long time. She lived well and lived joyfully. Um, but in the end, she died very quickly. So it was this sun face, moon face scenario. And how does this show up in all of our lives in many different ways? Some of us are, living for, we ourselves, or we know people who live for a long period of time, but they're sick the entire time. So some people interpret uh, this koan as sun face being healthy and moon face being sick. But you can be sun face, long lived, but not have a happy life, not have a healthy life. Same thing happens, with moon face Buddha. You can live a short period of time, and certainly 70 years in cosmological time is nothing more than a minute. You can live that short amount of time and live life to the fullest, to the greatest extent possible. Um, so both of these, and you could also look at it as the the differences between the absolute and the relative. So the absolute sun face and the relative moon face. That sun face for live forever, and the relative that we live a short period of time. So all those different aspects are in this very simple sounding koan. So it's not as simple as it sounds, just, deceptively simple. But how are we living? How are we regarding this? How are we taking care of our life as it is right here, right now? Is really what this is all pointing to, because there's no not entering our lives. There's no way out of our lives. Even as we die, even as what existed before we were born and what exists after we're dead, we have no control over. Um, but there doesn't seem to be any place that we go. We just change forms. Um, the in the uh, the book of what's the it's the it was a I can't remember the name of it. He describes death as a change of clothes. The book of Living and Dying, written by um, one of the Rinpoches, a Tibetan monk, and I should have looked that up before I came up here, but I didn't. So, and I've always liked that particular description. That when we're born, we put on a put on these our birth clothes, and when we die, we take them and change into something else. Um, so here we are with this teaching and this very deep permutation. So some of the differences in the between the Blue Cliff and the um, Book of Equanimity was mostly the verse. Go because this verse kind of got the compiler into trouble. So the verse from the Blue Cliff record, sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha, what kind of people were the ancient emperors? For 20 years I have suffered bitterly. How many times I have gone down into the blue dragon's cave for you. This distress is worth recounting. Clear-eyed patchwork monks should not take it lightly. So somebody at the time this was written, so Master Baso lived at the end of the 8th century. So someone took offense to this particular verse that was attached to this koan, and thought that they were complaining about, the, 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 the current and past emperors. There was a political statement. Um, and they didn't want to allow this particular koan in the koan canon because of this. Um, I don't, there's so many possible interpretations to that. I'm not sure there was what they were projecting onto it at that time and what was going on politically that would have led them to that. But I'm glad that whoever that was did not succeed in excluding this from the canon. So we have this today. And Master Baso is credited with creating the koan system as we do it today, and that is this exchange between um, uh, it's a dialogue between two people. The two people are usually Zen practitioners, teacher students, students, teacher teacher. So it is usually this dialogue, and what is required of us is that we put ourselves into the direct experience of the two people who are conversing. Um, it can also be uh, there are some of the koans that are single lines. There's no dialogue, so you put yourself into what that line is saying. But it's not about um, some sort of discursive intellectual response. It is about the direct experience, and that's what Basso is referring to. He knows that he has a short time, and he's experiencing the effect of just impermanence, and living and dying, just what all of us do on a daily basis. Because we never know. We never know when that proverbial bus is going to come out, take us out as we're possibly crossing the street. Hopefully that won't happen. But there is also that surprise. There are anything could happen. But how do we live in the face of this impermanence, in the face of knowing that we're not going to be here forever? I don't know. There are these claims that human beings are the only ones who know that we're going to die. Somehow, I think that's a little um, human centric, if you will. Since we can't communicate very well with the other animals, we don't know what the animals think or know. So being an animal lover, I think they know more than we give them credit for. Um, but you know, but we know that we know that life is temporary. Life is um, short. No matter how many years you live, it's never long enough. Um, and especially if people meet an unfortunate end early in their life, we that registers for us as a problem. but is it really? How how did they live? And certainly there are examples of great people who lived relatively short lives, but contributed amazing things that basically have immortalized them. I think of Mozart or Chopin as a musician, two great composers who died in their 30s, but their music is regarded as some of the greatest music on the planet, and will most likely be regarded that way forever, as far as I can tell, for those people who like classical music anyway. Um, but they didn't live long. They their 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 they their flame burned bright for a very short period of time, and then they were gone. But what they've left us is somewhat immortal. And we all do that to a certain extent. We all contribute to the planet in some way, and we all have an effect on every moment of every day that we are alive and doing stuff. And that effect might be noticed to a certain extent or not. We may not all be famous, but we all contribute, whether we're alive for a day, and or many, many, many years. Um, Either way, you know, we are both sun-faced Buddhists and moon-faced Buddhists. But it's really about how we're taking care of ourselves, how we're living, how we're experiencing this life, and treasuring that experience, and making ourselves you know, contributing members of the universe.
Mhm.
So we could go on and on and on about all the various permutations. I won't bore you with all that today, but worth looking into, worth really, diving into this koan and feeling its effect, directly experiencing its effect as we uh, as we are alive. The other reference I wanted to point out is that there's a reference in the Blue Cliff record. Where is that? Uh, it is mentioned in the. There's another book that's kind of a compendium to the Blue Cliff record called the Secrets of the Blue Cliff record. These are commentaries from Hakuin, who was he 16th, 17th century. I can't remember his dates, but Japanese teacher who uh, all of the Renzai lineage flows through him because he was the only one that brought the Renzai lineage to Japan. Just as the Soto lineage flows through Dogen in that sense. But there's this uh, line: the aim for the moment is for there to be a place to enter, gouging a wound in healthy flesh. So this particular line, I remember reading it 30 plus years ago when I first started reading the koans, because I read them all before I actually did a koan study. And after you read a whole bunch of koans, there's so many violent references. So I was like, oh my God, more gouging and slapping and hitting. But this is a kind of an important line, because what precedes it is that the aim for this moment, the aim in this moment, is for there to be a place. It's um about how do we start practice? Where do we enter practice? Um, and the better question is, where does practice not exist? So you can, wherever it is you are, you can enter practice. There's no barrier that that is there except the ones that we put up for ourselves. And certainly there are many. Too busy, it's too hard. I can't do all this. Can't sit cross-legged. Can't sit. All the excuses we come up with for not doing practice. Obviously, the people in this room are the exception, because I'm preaching to the choir. because you're here and doing the practice. But there are many out there who, test it out, know this would be good for them, but they continue to put up their own barriers for that. And this gouging in healthy flesh is what we all do when we are sitting. We struggle, we suffer, we take we're trying to focus on our breath and do this over and over again, or we're trying to work on koans, and there's this work that we do to um, try to gain the so-called enlightenment. Usually forgetting that you know we're already enlightened. We as just as we are. And that's the healthy flesh. We're already there. We already have this enlightenment. We do have to get out of our own way in order to directly experience it and realize it. That's the gouging. So you're already healthy. You're already perfect, whole, complete, just as you are. Whether you are sick or not, you are just as things are as things are. Um, but we continue to work, which is good. We need to, despite the fact that we know that in some sense, um, we're going to die, but we don't know when that is. So it's very important for us to understand that we need to take care of this body while it is alive. It is this balance of, it's not complete nihilism. It's like, I'm going to die, so why bother? It's, yeah, I'm going to die, but, right now I've got this and I need to take care of it. Um, and the other aspect is I'm immortal. Nothing's going to harm me. Matter and energy is neither created or destroyed. I've always been here and I will always be here. So it doesn't matter what I do. Well, it does matter because you have an impact on everything you do. Everything you do has an impact. So also, uh, the life you live, if you consider yourself in that extreme, still needs to be taken care of because you need to take care of the impact that you have on anything and everything around you. However, this practice is still this uh, gouging and healthy flesh. It is also this, what's the other cliche? Selling water by the river, because everything you need is already there. And yet we, you know, give donations, buy Buddha statues, buy all the Zen accoutrement to look the part. Um, so that we, those, I've which I've done. I've purchased the water that was by the river, and continue to support that. So we do need to take care of the institutions, the containers that create a place for us to practice. But the practice doesn't stop at the door, doesn't stop on the cushion. You take whatever practice you do on the cushion out into everything you do in your everyday life. And that's the most important aspect. Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree, realizing enlightenment was just one small part of the enlightenment. The other part was going out and taking that teaching to, to the world, to the universe. And, that teaching has now been passed down to us after 2,500 years. So it continues. He lived a short 84 years, but his legacy, his teaching, continues to this day. All right, enough of Master Baso. He's a dead man. How about you? How is your health? How is your life? How are you living in practice? Any questions, disagreements, or dissensions, comments?
WaYu. Hi, it's Mark. I
Yes.
don't know if you can see me. Can you see me?
No,
Yeah,
but I hear you.
let me move over a little bit. Okay. How about now?
There it is. Yes, the camera is wandering. I see what you mean, Alex. I see you now. Go ahead.
Okay. Um, so I'm still not quite getting like what is Baso trying to communicate with that answer?
To the monk. Um, basically he is both sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha. That he knows he's dying. He knows that his time is short. Um, so he's experiencing at this particular moment the moon-faced Buddha, the Buddha that's going to die and not be there. And he also knows that what he is has always been there, and what he is will always be there in some other form. So the 1800, the metaphorical 1800 years that the uh, sun-faced Buddha lived and the 24 hours that the moon-faced Buddha lived, he was experiencing simultaneously. And that's what he was trying to communicate to the monk who was asking about his health.
Okay. And then the other question I had is from the preface to the assembly.
In which book? The Book of Equanimity?
Yeah, Book of Equanimity.
Okay.
As though your study leaves the road of common and holy, you are still in danger. The iron barb is jerked out from the red hot forge.
Yeah.
How do you understand that?
Yeah. So there seems to be, and I think it's not just with Zen. It's people seem to look at spiritual practice as something that is going to allow them to not experience the sufferings of life. That they're going to be somehow above it, removed from it, healed from it. And they go into um, the study of whatever the spiritual practice of their choice, let's say Zen, for example, thinking that, all will, if as long as I'm not doing the bad common things, you know, I will be holy and removed. But you're still subject to the relative nature of life, to living and dying and sickness and health, and the experience of what life actually is. You're not removed from it. So that iron barb is jerked out from the very hard force. So no matter how you try to avoid um, the the pain, if you will, of life, or if you're being stabbed with an iron barb that is, I think of branding, if someone has taken, a piece of iron and stuck it in a fire and it's hot and they now stick you with it, and certainly if, if you've now, how does it feel when you are facing your doctor and you suddenly are told that you have end stage cancer and, there's no coming back from that. The experience of that your life is now ending uh, is sometimes a wake up call. People are in denial that they're going to get old and die, even though they're getting this diagnosis when they're older. It's a surprise. It's a shock. Um, it's a red hot iron that you've just been branded with.
The book that you were referring to earlier, the Tibetan Book of Living and Dying by Sogyal Rinpoche,
Thank you.
is
Yes.
a worthwhile book to read. It has a detailed description of what happens after death, which can be taken the first degree or however you wish, but it spends a great deal of its content in describing the states beyond death, and very well written.
Yes, I read it 30 years ago, and I will have to reread it. I was very impressed with the book. It's basically based on the Tibetan Book of the Dead,
Right.
um, but much more clear and narrative in its format. But yeah, highly recommend the reading. Don't get caught up in Sylvia Rinpoche's personal history because that might be discouraging. He unfortunately fell from grace at some point.
As they all did.
What was the name of the book, Alex?
The
Tibetan Book of Living and Dying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Hi, Julie.
Hi, WaYu, oftentimes I'll have like this burning question in my mind, and you'll answer it in that week's koan, which is kind of this weird synchronicity that's going on. But today it was particularly obvious. Yesterday I happened to attend the Requiem Mass for a friend of mine who died of end-stage pancreatic cancer. I think tomorrow's his birthday, would be 80 years old tomorrow. And his widow, they didn't have any children, so his widow is suffering greatly. I mean, even if they did have children, she'd still be suffering. But I think sometimes the children will help, the widow or the widower. They'll kind of gather around and help them. Literally just hold them, hold a space for them. And also present at the Requiem Mass and the reception service afterwards was another good friend of mine who lost her life partner a year ago to a sudden massive heart attack. And he was only 64 years old. And she had urged him to go to urgent care when he was describing symptoms that were alarming to her. And he said, no, it's not that bad. I'm fine, I'm fine. And she left the house. And when she came back, she found his body. Extremely traumatic. But the watching your loved one die, and even in the pancreatic cancer, what I'm picking up from these widows is it's a huge amount of traumatic suffering that takes place watching someone die or discovering someone's body, especially when the last time you saw them, you unsuccessfully urged them to get medical care and were unsuccessful. The anger and the guilt in that case is just overwhelming. But at the Requiem Mass, what the priest spoke about was, I was raised Catholic, by the way, so what they spoke about was eternal life in Jesus, after you die, and life is not just life here, life goes on, and your soul is going to be reunited after you're dead. So it's like kind of good news. You're not really dead. You're just not in this phase. You've made a transition, a journey, a pilgrimage to another stage. And I guess I wanted to find some solace in that, because I think that's one of the reasons why people go to church, is to find solace for these, the pain that we experience as human beings. But I couldn't find solace, and I'm not even sure I can find any solace in Baso's illness and the koans, and it's like, I guess it's just so hard for me to watch people suffer. It's just so incredibly hard to feel their suffering, and I feel so helpless. Just so incredibly helpless that I can't relieve it in some way. So I just wondered if you had any words of wisdom on, how to wrap my heart around this.
Well, what the most important aspect of being a bodhisattva, and one of the bodhisattvas is Avalokiteshvara or Kuan Yin, who, the thousand hands and thousand eyes of the Avalokiteshvara is that bodhisattva, which is us, we are the same bodhisattva, is that we feel directly this suffering of everyone, of all the people, especially those people that are directly in front of us or people that we know. And suffering is endless. There is no way out of suffering. That's a fact of life. How we deal with the suffering is why we practice. So how do we face those? What I appreciate about Zen practice, probably more than anything else, is its very realistic point of view. It does not, the third chant that we do for morning services at Yokoji. It's a chant for those or that's sorry, it's the fourth chant where because there's a list, there's a sick list. These are people who are sick and possibly dying that we do this chant for, and in the there's nowhere in that chant or nowhere in um the following verse that takes place after the chant do we ask for healing, and that struck me when I first started practicing. It's like we're not trying to pray for someone else's being different than they are. If they're sick, they're sick. If they're suffering, they're suffering. If they're not, if they're well, they're well. So it was this very realistic way. The line says, may they be serene through all their ills. So it's not that they're trying to escape it, but how do you find serenity, um, equanimity, which is what this whole koan book is about. Finding that equanimity, that balance within reality, just as it is, because we distract ourselves. Certainly there are ways of distracting ourselves from that. Um, you list your poison, list your app. Um, but really being present in reality just as it is very, very difficult. And so there is no easy answer to that. There's nothing that will make that better other than being with it, because only in being with it are you able to change your relationship to it. And that change of relationship is where the suffering ends is where you stop trying to not suffer. And it's a little counterintuitive, but that's really what this practice is. It's when you accept it, and that's what the last stage of grief after anger, denial, bargaining. I always forget one. And the last stage is acceptance. So with that acceptance, with the embodiment of it, that's where suffering ends. That's how we end suffering, is by being suffering without trying to escape it, um, and being joy without trying to escape it, and in being, neutral without trying to escape it. It's this attraction attraction and aversion thing that we do, that's where the suffering is when we're trying to cling on to those things that we consider to be good and healthy and long lived, and then we're trying to push away those things that we are bad and unhealthy and sad, but we are all of these things all of the time, and being present with that and taking care of it, uh, as appropriate, and when it comes up, is where we end suffering for ourselves and others. And that's a hard place. That's not an easy place to do. That's not an easy place to be. So there's no easy way to do that. It requires the hard work of being present, which starts with, sitting down and being present with your breath. Uh, that's what this is all about.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right. Any final questions before I want to get to the quick moving discussion before we close. But anything else you want to bring up? Anything, Kirk? No. Okay. Anything else in the room? Okay, let's close and then we'll talk about this being our last day in Seal Beach.
Sentient beings are numberless.
I vow to save them.
Delusions are inexhaustible.
I vow to put an end to them. The dharmas are boundless. I vow to master them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to attain them. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to put an end to them. The dharmas are boundless. I vow to master them. The Buddha ways unsurpassable. I vow to attain it. Sentient beings are numberless. I vow to save them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to put an end to them. The dharmas are boundless. I vow to master them. The Buddha ways unsurpassable. I vow to attain it.
All right, a few announcements. Their Dharma combat with Kohaku, who's the head trainee for the summer training period at Yokoji. Her Dharma combat is tomorrow at 11:30. So that will and tomorrow also starts the 7-day session for that will end the summer training period. So if you can make it's on Zoom. So if you can make that, that'd be great. Ask questions. She will be presenting her koan, and she's been very successful head training for the past 30 days, and it'd be good to wish her well. And then not much else. And then they're back in interim period, beginning a week from tomorrow. So there will be the fall training period will start in September, though. So they'll have a short break before they get to the fall training period. Then our move. This is the last Saturday that we will be at the Seal Beach Center for Spiritual Living. They've been wonderful and gracious hosts for us, but expenses are going up, so they're raising our rent, and we're trying to keep our expenses as minimal as possible. And we were kind of displaced from Long Beach as a result of COVID. So this is our return to our home city, to Long Beach. The Solo Gallery, 240 Pine Street, right in the midst of downtown Long Beach. So lots of great things to do. So we've secured a place, and it's quite spacious. We'll be able to leave stuff set up, so it should be easier to get there and do practice. And I'm sure our relationship will evolve. But for now, it's just on Saturdays that we'll start sitting again. Who knows? We might be able to do more things since we'll have a quasi dedicated space. So we'll see how that works out. So I guess thanks, Alex, for trying to get us chairs. The center was not willing to part with those. Not that I blame them; they're nice chairs, but we will have chairs of some sort. I've got some folding chairs that I can bring down in the meantime until we come up with something better. So we'll see how that works. Anything else we need to know? I'm going to send out an email with all the information, with the address, the schedule, and the address of the parking that's available. So everybody will have that in their email this coming week. What else do we need to know?
Have you tested the Wi-Fi
Oh, Mark,
there?
did we test the Wi-Fi?
We can. So we can do it. The plan that I kind of thought might make the most sense, because we're sort of few in number in terms of the move operations, but we do have David in his truck next Saturday. So I think that we want to do a work practice Saturday at 9:00 here. Move everything. We won't have to get into the sanctuary. Just go to storage, load everything out of storage into the truck, and head over to 240 Pine, and then everybody can participate in setting up, as opposed to trying to do it during the week. It's also a much better time for 240 Pine because there's a lot less crowded at 9:30 in the morning than it is in the afternoon on a weekday. So I think it makes most sense, and Patricia will be there at the gallery to let us in for sure, to just make the whole transfer together as a Sangha Saturday at 9. So if you put that in your email, WaYu, inviting people to show up at 9 o'clock at the church. We'll load everything up at that point and take it over there. I think everything is, ready to go. Patricia has been very accommodating. We're all going to look for some chairs. I remember seeing some very nice chairs at Salvation Army on Alamitos Boulevard, which isn't very far from downtown, so that might be a source. But I think we all need to look for some nice chairs like these. But we can use your folding chairs in the meantime. That would be great.
So may I suggest um, uh, some other alterations with that? Can we, because it's loading what's there and getting over there doesn't require a lot of people because the bins are already packed. So can we load earlier and get there, uh, before that, like when she opens at 8:30. And then when people show up at 9, if we're still setting up, that's great. If not, we're at 9 o'clock, we can be ready to go.
Well, I'm trying to do this in a way that's sort of the least taxing on fairly limited resources. The earlier we make it, the less people are probably going to show up. So I'm just concerned that we, try to do this in a way that's going to get it done with the least amount of problems.
I think 3 people to load up David's truck is sufficient. And
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking because stuff is already packed.
to do.
So just have, all right, so.
So
all
my point of view is that the practice is what the focus is. And, it takes us, a few minutes to set up for practice. We just shift those few minutes earlier and we're just setting up practice there. We're ready to go by 9.
Okay, but
So
we got to pick them up here, drive them over there, take them upstairs over the other side, and then set up all by 9 o'clock from 8:30 to 9. I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, I think that as close as possible. If we did the first period, if everyone met there at 9, instead of meeting at Seal Beach and having to drive, just, the 2 or 3 people we need to load the truck, meet at Seal Beach. Everyone else is there at 9. They'll be there to help us set up because we can spend the first half hour, the first, Zazen period as work practice, but I'm not seeing that it's going to be helpful to have everyone showed up at Seal Beach at 9, drive over, and then set up because you don't need everybody just set to pack the truck and drive over there. It's already packed. We're just getting the bins and the trolleys out of storage and putting them in the truck. And they'll all fit quite easily.
Okay, so you, me, and Alex will show up here at 8:30.
David.
And David, yeah.
At 8:30, and everybody else will go to the site at 9 o'clock, and we'll drop.
Well, if everyone I'll encourage everyone to be earlier than like by 9:15. It's not going to take. How long does it take to drive? I mean, from there to Pine Street is what, 15 minutes?
20 minutes, and it depends on whether we can park in front or if we have to park in the parking structure.
Right.
I wouldn't count on less than 40 minutes from
Okay.
the time that we leave here and the time that we bring the stuff upstairs.
Okay. So yeah, I think that let's say 9. So we'll meet there at 8:30 next Saturday. Everyone else will be I'll tell everybody in the email, meet at Solo Gallery at 9.
Right.
By 9. And we'll spend the first half hour, and it probably will take a half hour to set up. Then we do Zazen and Dharma talk on the way. And Kirk, if their Wi-Fi isn't working, Zoom will work up from my hotspot on my phone. So you will be um, available. Well, it'll be available for you.
Okay. I'll be here.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Okay,
sounds
great.
good. Sounds good.
All right. Anything else we need to know?
So I'm bringing that 43-inch TV monitor. So
Okay.
I'll just bring it straight over to 240 Pine. And
Yes.
hopefully I can find a space in front of the gallery to park my car so we don't have to carry it very far into the building.
Well,
And
Okay.
there's a middle lane there where people often park who are going to, Chipotle or wherever. So you can,
Yeah.
on Saturday morning, I'm sure that'll be open for you to
Yeah.
just park in that middle
And if
lane.
it's not close enough, when it comes time to unload it, I can maybe move forward. I can double park with my
Yeah.
blinkers on,
Yeah.
Yeah.
while you access it.
Yeah. I would say do what's safe. I mean, unless you have, because I know that people use that middle lane for loading and unloading, but you would need to have help unloading. So unless someone's right there,
Well, I'm not going to
I
unload
think,
it myself. I was just going to park nearby and then try to get the car as close as possible.
okay. So yeah, let's do that. Then, a couple people can go to the car and bring the monitor in.
Yeah, two
Yeah.
people is enough. It's just one
Yeah.
person. It's just too big and heavy for one
So
person.
unless you're able to arrange for someone to be there when you pull up, that makes it that much closer, but it would need to be two separate people because you can't leave your car there for
Right.
very long.
Well, if she comes at 9 o'clock when we already have people showing up for service anyways, they could unload her vehicle at that point.
They can, as long as they're, you know,
They're
right
there.
outside and ready to go.
Well, we'll work it
Well,
out.
in your email, just put that in there.
Yeah,
Ask people to wait at the door,
right.
Okay.
to help with unloading, because they have to unload with us too.
Right, right. If I
Okay.
get there's nobody around, I'll just move the car at the time when there is going to be somebody there to help.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'll put that in the email, Mark. Thank you. I'll do that.
All right, well, goodbye, bye, Seal Beach. There,
Yes. And
today they left about three more stands of chairs in front of our, equipment. So we're getting the signal. It's time to go.
wow.
Rude.
Okay, then I guess we're now yesterday's news. We can now move on.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all for being there today, and thanks for being there next week. And look forward to seeing everybody in our new space.
All right. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. All right. Talk to you. See you next week.
Thank you. All right.